Let's begin by telling you that the federal government of Nigeria has advised organized labor to consider the broader economic implications of its push for what it called an unrealistic higher national minimum wage. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who gave the admonition while speaking at the opening of the 2024 Synod of the Charismatic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria in Abuja, noted that the 250,000 naira minimum wage demanded by labor could undermine the economy, lead to mass retrenchment of workers, and jeopardize the welfare of Nigerians. The minister emphasized the importance of a realistic wage system that safeguards against mass retrenchment while addressing workers' needs. Idris reiterated the government's dedication to reassessing the minimum wage, but cautioned against demands that could disrupt the economy. To discuss this, I'm joined by economic analyst Olusegun Okunade. Hello, Olusegun. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Yeah, good evening, Darshan, and good evening to all our viewers across the globe. Great to be here this evening.
Yes, indeed. Okay, Olusegun, now, in your expert's opinion, what do you think would be a realistic and sustainable minimum wage increase that balances workers' needs and economic stability?
Yeah, thank you very much, Darshan. And I think that's a good question and a good place to start. Asking that question, we need to give a right perspective to what entails a right and a realistic minimum wage. I think at this point in time, I've said it in different fora, and I'm still emphasizing it, that labor seems to be misprioritizing their request by asking for increase in minimum wage. If we go back to history, we have minimum wage increase from 7.5 to 18,000, from 18,000 to 30,000, of which we are currently asking for the review. But when you look at the purchasing power of an average citizen, as these things are being increased, they keep reducing, and our ways of living keep getting deteriorated. So I feel that if you ask me, of which it sounds unpopular, what we should be fighting for is that keep the minimum wage at 30,000. But can you look at other parameters that makes life more meaningful? Take, for example, the energy cost, which is on the high side for you and I, and an average organized private sector who is actually bleeding and could not survive the cost of this energy, leading to retrenchment of people, even without increasing the personnel cost. Can we speak to government to say the subsidy that you consider that is gone, this increment that you want to give, can we have a perspective of you investing the money in bringing up our refinery in such a way that we can afford to buy fuel at the rate of maybe 100 or 150 naira per liter, which drastically will reduce the cost of food, it will reduce the cost of logistics, and we give an average businessman to compete favorably with other people that they are actually making their production. That's when I can tell you this, that even the few things we are producing in this country cannot compete favorably with those that are actually being imported, despite the huge cost of foreign exchange. The second aspect of it is to see how the organized labor can tap into having a single-digit interest rate where they can borrow and invest massively. Because when you look at it, we have natural resources that we are blessed with, and all we need is to synergize in such a way to explore that natural resources, process it here to create employment for our people. But the access to funds is very key, of which, as we speak, interest rate is about 26%. How can we speak to government bringing down the inflation rate? How can we bring out food inflation rate? As we speak, I'm sure, Darshan, you are a lady and you prepare food always. I know the cost of even people buying food stuff as we speak. It was a topic that we had even in my office this morning.
Well, all right.
Even
yes,
people are surviving.
Now, when you hear the government say things like, the amount that labor is demanding for will shut down the economy, or, will cause retrenchments, of civil servants, it feels like a threat. How well do you think the government is communicating its economic policies and relief measures to the public? And how well do you think the government is actually communicating, everything that has to do with the national minimum wage to the public?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dasha. To me, it's not a threat because I've seen several people ask me question that it seems I'm on the side of the government, but I'm only being realistic as an economist and also an employer of labor. As we speak, you ask yourself if the minimum wage is increased to even 62,000, an average person, it's going to affect the revised in the payment that you do across board for every employee of yours. And that is why they are paying 30,000. I'm sure you know that most of the organized private sector, who we consider as the highest employer of labor, are not paying that. So by the time you skyrocket it to 62,000, maybe an individual of them will be paying as much as 100,000. And don't forget one thing, immediately you have an increase in salary, even by the federal government. The woman selling pepper on the road cannot distinct who is a civil servant, who is a private sector employee. All he knows is that, congratulations, they've increased your salary. And all the things that they've been selling at a minimal rate now go high up there. I feel it's not a threat, but it's a realistic thing, which I expect the labor to say, okay, rather than asking for increment in this thing, the money that you will use in paying salary, can you use it to fix our refinery and make sure you drop the cost of petrol? See, the major problem you and I are currently facing is the three statement by Mr. President. Subsidy is gone. What are the alternative measures that they have put? Some of us were thinking that economically, we would have seen them invest the money in infrastructure, like bringing up our refinery to reduce the cost of production. But what we heard is that they've given the money to the state. How many of the states can actually benefit from so much money that are given to them? It is not visible. So I feel that rather than asking for an increase in wages, we should engage the government the more constructively in such a way that we can expand the scope of our production, which is currently not visible. We can engage them in making sure that security is nipped at the bud. Insecurity is nipped at the bud to secure the people in such a way that I can have access to other states, take the raw materials that I needed, and also nip corruption at the bud. Each day we wake up and we hear of so much money in the hands of very few oppressing the people. I think these are areas we expect the government, because I will always say, the very few that the government are saying, about 1.2 million, that is employee of who are the civil servant, how many of them compared to millions of other employers that we're saying? And these are part of the people that formulate the policy. How do you speak to our refinery working for years without any production? And we keep having turnaround maintenance, and people are being paid for working in that sector.
All right, Olusegun. Now let's backtrack a bit. About previous adjustments to the minimum wage. In Nigeria, how have these adjustments, affected the economy and also the employment rates? If you're looking at how, if you're listening to what the government is saying about, the economy going to shut down, or retrenchments and all that, how have the previous adjustments affected the economy and employment rates? Are there lessons to be learned from the past experiences?
Yeah, I will say this, Dasha. If you look at the statistics of our unemployment before the increment of wages from 18 to 30,000 years back, you discover that it ranges between 12 to 15%. As we speak, NBS is giving us a figure of unemployment rate that is as high as 35%. And it's to tell you that there are a lot of people that have actually been retrenched, not because the company is really not survived. Don't forget, we just came out of COVID that actually brought so many organizations down. But I always want to narrow it to our country, Nigeria. Rather than we having more organizations come into the country and grow the economy, we have very many of them exiting the shore of the company, and it's worrisome. You just heard recently of the exit of Guinness, the major stakeholders handing over to people. Imagine the value chain of that particular organization. We've heard P&G left this country. We've had other organizations that are into production. God are the years in the 70s when we can produce tires here, where we manufacture vehicles, where we manufacture fabrics, where we manufacture other things that contribute meaningfully, and we can spread it. But as we speak, everybody is only running after government job, of which is not sustainable, because how many can the government employ? You need to enhance the small, medium enterprise, the medium scale enterprise, for you to have a broad brain of economic growth.
Well, would love to thank you for your time with us here and speaking to us on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Right away from that, the National Association of Nigerian Students on Thursday rejected the bill seeking a single term of 6 years for the president and state governors, describing it as anti-democratic and an attempt to stifle citizens' choices. It will be recalled that 35 members of the House of Representatives, under the auspices of reformed-minded legislators, had last week proposed a bill seeking a single term of 6 years for the president and state governors. The lawmakers are equally seeking rotation of the presidency among the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, arguing that the proposition, if implemented, would lead to a reduction in the cost of governance. However, NANS, while reacting to the bill, called on Nigerians, pro-democracy groups, organized labor, and trade unions to mobilize against the bill. To judicial matters now, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the suit of the federal government against the 36 state governors seeking full autonomy for the 774 local governments in Nigeria. Justice Garba Lawal on Thursday announced that parties in the matter would be communicated once the judgment is ready. He announced the reservation of the judgment after the 7-man panel of the Apex Court had taken adoption of processes filed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, on behalf of the federal government and those of the 36 state governors. At Thursday's proceedings, the AGF, SAN Lateef Fagbemi, pleaded with the Supreme Court to grant all the relief sought by the federal government in the suit. However, the governors, through their respective state attorneys general and commissioners for justice, opposed the request of the federal government and asked the court to dismiss the suit. Still in court matters, Justice Liman Muhammad of the Federal High Court, Kano State, has declared that the dethroned Emir Aminu Ado Bayero has the right to be heard. The case filed by the kingmaker, Aminu Babadang Agundi, is that of a fundamental human rights case in the Emirate tussle. The development comes days after Kano State High Court ordered substituted service on Bayero and 4 other emirs in a case filed by the Kano State government to restrain them from parading themselves as emirs. Our correspondent, Emmanuel Bagudu, who is monitoring the developments, will bring us updates in our subsequent bulletins. To security matters, earlier today, News Central Television held a town hall meeting in Jos Plateau State to address the saddening deaths and conflicts plaguing some communities. News Central's Chidinma Ona compiled this report.
Nigeria's Middle Belt state, known for its mining production, has witnessed several devastating conflicts for decades. Plateau State, with an estimated 3 million people, is known for playing a vital role in the country's prosperous economy with its exportation of tin and columbite. However, recurring tragedies over the years have posed a threat to indigents.
What we have witnessed is a village will be attacked. Those that are killed. Those that are maimed. Then those that remain will have to run to safety. The next day, the attackers will come and occupy the village and live, and they have been living there. That is what has been happening.
Is purely an act of terrorism. Though at the onset, it was more of a religious crisis from 2001, but when it gets to 2010, from that point, particularly 2015, it was more of an ethnic cleansing mission.
Cutting from the government herself, the security agencies are on their various formations, the community leaders, the community itself, everybody has something to say and have something to do to maintain peace. If you see any attack, somebody has not done his job, or somebody did his job wrongly.
The first recorded incident of crisis occurred in 1994. Since then, over 4,486 deaths have been recorded, ravaging some communities to the ground. At the event, security officials and critical stakeholders amplified the indigenous call for community-driven solutions.
Sometimes things that are happening somewhere in other location, people will post it on the net, on internet, everywhere, and be sharing it, that it is happening just now in the plateau. We must be sincere with ourselves. Nobody will solve your problem with you. Whether you send all those things to them, they will not come here to solve the problem. It's you on the ground.
There is a commitment from the governor that myself and my team will meet with the governor in the shortest possible time, and our intention and my personal commitment on behalf of New Central is that we will be back here as soon as possible to make sure that we dig deeper in this conversation and we find a solution.
As a call for justice, rehabilitation, and compensation rings loud, New Central TV will continue to advocate for justice within its capacity.
Welcome back. The Defense Headquarters has dismissed allegations bordering on negligence of duty leveled by the governor of Zamfara, located in Nigeria's northwest region, against the military following a recent attack by bandits which claimed the lives of several residents in the state. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, spoke to newsmen in Abuja, saying that the military will continue to put in their best to tackle crime and criminality and ensure peace is restored back to troubled communities.
Allegations that he has raised against the military and the security forces in the state really needs to be analyzed impartially and understood. And it underscores what I have mentioned earlier, that winning the war without the support of the people of the state is close to impossible. Indeed, I would say winning the war without the support of the governor is even more impossible. It must be noted that despite the state being the epicenter of kidnapping, according to his words, the state has no internal security platform for security forces to coordinate operations. You will find these platforms in other states which do not have as much security concerns or situations as Zamfara State in this case.
To health matters, Vice President Kashim Shettima has urged Nigerian resident doctors to remain in the country and support President Bola Tinubu's administration to improve healthcare delivery. He said if doctors resisted the temptation of seeking greener pastures abroad, they would realize that President Tinubu had their interests at heart. Shettima said this when he hosted the National Executive Committee of the Nigerian Medical Association, led by its new president, Professor Bala Audu, at the State House in Abuja. The vice president lauded the sacrifices of Nigerian doctors and encouraged them to stay back and salvage the nation together. Earlier, President-Resident Doctors, Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Adeyemi Famous, shared his thoughts on the news.
Japa syndrome has been on for a while now, and it calls for the attention of the government, the stakeholders, private sectors, everyone, all hands must be on deck for this issue or this menace to be addressed. Because as we currently speak, the health indices that we use to calculate the availability of sound health or good health care or services and in any country is dropping and dwindling in Nigeria. Talk of maternal mortality rate, talk of under 5 mortality rate, infant mortality rate. Nigeria is, the maternity rate for Nigeria is one of the worst, even in sub-Saharan Africa, third to that of South Sudan, Chad. So it's extremely high, even the under 5 mortality. And it's not, no doctor wants to, given every opportunity or every chance, the doctors will not want to even go out of the country. We love to be at home, offer our services and our care.
In a bid to enhance healthcare access for displaced persons and host communities in northeast Nigeria, the International Committee of the Red Cross has inaugurated a new 20-bed capacity primary healthcare center in Monguno town of Borno State. The health facility, constructed by the ICRC, is already serving both internally displaced persons as well as host communities in the area, targeting to improve healthcare for over 80,000 people. News Central's Umari Kirawa completes the report.
Monguno town is a settlement for millions of people in Nigeria's northeastern state of Borno. The years of conflict that ravaged the region forced many families to seek safety and settle in Monguno town, among others. This has overstretched facilities, which demands intervention.
Kazi zo marambe kiamna laso litari lasana laso leno hala yendo litari reskuro se garzana faida suri mara chinzo maba kararo kara.
We do this in cooperation with the Nigerian Red Cross Society, and we also work to prevent suffering by promoting and strengthening humanitarian law and universal humanitarian principles.
The inauguration of this new health center aims to provide emergency care while enhancing overall quality of health care offered to the communities.
Da muna karanci asibiti, amma asibitin da Red Cross ya gina wannan. Kalan shi ma ni ban taba gani ba.
Litari da ziktina na garo amda narin shirin cin za su wanda yin wajin su a wala so do isu litari shari isu andiyar chonde. Isu da litari shari fondena ya sorolan isu na wende fulu zina.
I thank you very much for all this support, and I am sure the local government will also do its own effort to provide the health facility and at the same time maintain its staff and the activities very well.
The healthcare facility provides a wide range of services to the people around the clock.
It's now comprehensive primary healthcare services, which includes the outpatient consultation, inpatient admissions for some cases that need some observation, full package sexual and reproductive health, which includes antenatal care, postnatal care, delivery services, and then some sexual violence cases management.
Our assistance activities include enhancing the livelihoods of affected populations through agricultural and livelihood projects. We also improve access to drinkable water by digging boreholes and installing water supply systems and treatment plants.
By supporting the primary health care, which is the first contact of the patient, the intervention underscores the quest to provide immediate services to the people for enhanced health. In Monguno for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
World Ocean Day, celebrated every June 8th, is a global event to raise awareness about the critical role our oceans play. Oceans cover more than 70% of our planet's surface and are home to an incredible diversity of life. They regulate our climate, provide food, and are a source of livelihood for millions. In commemoration of the day, the International Ocean Institute Nigeria Center organized an event to mark the 2024 World Ocean Day in Lagos. News Central's Bettina Ngweli reports.
Nigeria's coastline stretches over 850 kilometers along the Atlantic Ocean. This area is rich in biodiversity, including mangroves, coral reefs, and numerous marine species. The Gulf of Guinea, part of our territorial waters, is crucial for both local communities and global marine traffic.
Majority of humans are sea blind, meaning they don't see the sea, so we don't see the sea, and we really don't know the impact of the sea. New discoveries are being made, new creatures are being discovered. That tells you the depth of the ocean. So this year's theme, Awakening New Depth, is very, very important for people to understand the importance of the ocean, and particularly the blue economy.
Our oceans are not just ecological treasures, but also economic powerhouses. While the Nigerian maritime industry supports shipping, fishing, tourism, and oil extraction, the sustainable management of these resources is essential for our economy and future prosperity.
Tourism is part of the blue economy. If the environment is not secure, I'm aware that a lot of people are scared of Nigeria, even if they've not been here.
The essence is that when they drop their plastics, it gets into the ocean where they don't live. So the impact is more on the coastal communities where they're doing fishing or fisheries. The fishermen suffer from it because they have to go beyond their boundary to do fishing, because it affects the fishing activity, and this is one of the first economic activities to the fishermen. The second one is the aesthetic value of the ocean, which also may jeopardize us in having ecotourism. So this is the consequence on the marine environment. So whether you live upland and you don't understand, the fishermen suffer from these activities because it affects the fishing profile of their marine environment.
Despite their importance, our oceans face significant threats. Pollution, overfishing, and climate change are taking a toll on marine ecosystems. In Nigeria, plastic waste is a major concern. Every year, tons of plastic end up in our oceans, harming wildlife and polluting our beaches.
Blue economy actually talks about the wealth that we are getting from the ocean. And you can only get wealth from an ocean that is healthy. If the ocean is not healthy, there's no way you can get sustainable blue economy, sustainable wealth from that ocean.
Everyone has a role to play in protecting our oceans. Reduce, reuse, and recycle plastic products. Participate in beach cleanups, support sustainable seafood choices, and spread awareness about ocean conservation. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Ngweli.
The news continues in Southern Africa, where a second person has died in South Africa this week from the viral infection Mpox, says the health ministry less than 24 hours after it announced the first death. Previously known as monkeypox, Mpox is a viral illness transmitted through close contact with infected humans or animals, as well as via materials such as contaminated sheets. In July 2022, the World Health Organization described or declared a global health emergency which lasted for 10 months. On Thursday, South Africa's government said the second person who died was a 38-year-old man. He was admitted to a hospital in the KwaZulu-Natal province with extensive lesions, headache, fatigue, oral ulcers, muscle pain, and a sore throat. He tested positive for Mpox on Wednesday. Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera has appealed to the international community to render its support to the investigations of the plane crash that claimed the lives of Vice President Solus Chilima and 8 others on Monday. Chakwera made this appeal on Thursday morning when he met with over 20 heads of missions and international agencies at Kamuzu Palace in Lilongwe, Malawi. Meanwhile, with only 5 days left for the president to appoint a new vice president, as mandated by law, The clock is ticking, and the nation eagerly awaits this crucial decision. Political analysts also say this will be crucial for the political landscape in Malawi. Let's head to East Africa, where Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has reinstated Olivier Nduhungirehe as the country's foreign minister in a cabinet reshuffle. This comes after President Kagame dismissed him for consistently acting based on personal opinions over government policies. The vocal former state minister for the East African community was dropped in April 2020 and redeployed to Rwanda or as Rwandan ambassador to the Kingdom of Netherlands. He replaces Vincent Biruta, who has been moved to the Interior Ministry as minister. Kagame also transferred the powerful Brigadier General Joseph Nzabamwinta from the position of Secretary General of the National Intelligence and Security Services. A Kenyan magistrate has been shot and injured by a senior police officer during an open court session in the capital, Nairobi. The chief inspector opened fire on the Makadara principal magistrate, Monica Kivuti, as soon as she had made a ruling. The case allegedly involved the policeman's wife. The officer is said to have been angered by the court's decision to cancel bail to his wife. The angry officer then fired shots at the magistrate, injuring her. Other officers in court responded immediately, with one of them shooting the offending policeman and killing him, while 3 other officers were injured. The magistrate and the injured officers are being treated in hospital. In other news from around the world, Britain's Labour Party has launched a manifesto for wealth creation on Thursday, pledging to get the economy firing again if it wins power in next month's election after 14 years in opposition. Labour has consistently led Rishi Sunak's Conservatives by around 20 points in opinion polls for nearly 2 years, suggesting its leader, Keir Starmer, will become the next Prime Minister. The manifesto launch came 2 days after the Tories promised voters more tax cuts in a campaign where the affordability of the main party's spending plans has come under close scrutiny. Despite Labour's hefty poll lead, Starmer is fighting to overcome persistent Tory claims that his party will recklessly spend public finances and increase personal taxes.
Because today we can turn the page. Today we can lay a new foundation of stability. And on that foundation we can start to rebuild Britain. A Britain renewed by an old argument that we serve working people as their ambition drives our country forward. What this manifesto represents is a credible long-term plan, a plan built on stable foundations with clear first steps, tough spending rules that will keep taxes and inflation low, NHS waiting times cut with 40,000 extra appointments every week, a border security command to smash the criminal smuggling gangs, Great British Energy to cut bills in your home for good, more police in your town, cracking down on antisocial behaviour, and 6,500 new teachers in your school, giving your children the start in life that they deserve.
French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal on Thursday said he was in favor of a televised debate with RN boss Jordan Bardella and LFI leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon during the legislative election campaign. On a campaign trip to Boulogne-sur-Mer, Pas-de-Calais, Attal declared that his debate must be between those who have been more or less identified as potentially Prime Minister at the end of the elections, with Bardella for the extreme right and his allies, Mélenchon for the extreme left and its allies, and himself for the progressive bloc. Atal denounced an agreement of shame between the PS and LFI and the other left-wing parties for the formation of a new popular front.
Il y a déjà des propositions effectivement qui circulent de la part de médias et mes équipes ont été contactées et sur le principe, je suis favorable. Je pense que si débat il y a, il doit être entre celles ou ceux qui ont été plus ou moins identifiés comme potentiellement Premier ministre à l'issue de ces élections législatives. Et donc, issus de formations politiques qui ont une capacité à obtenir une majorité à l'Assemblée demain. Donc, effectivement, avec M. Bardella pour l'extrême droite et ses alliés, M. Mélenchon pour l'extrême gauche et ses alliés, et puis moi-même pour ce bloc progressiste que je représente.
G7 leaders at a summit in Italy on Thursday agreed on a new $50 billion loan for Ukraine using profits from frozen Russian assets, a U.S. official said. The G7 summit is focused on addressing global conflicts, the implications of artificial intelligence, and Italy's long-standing concerns regarding uncontrolled migration from Africa to Europe. Leaders of the G7 nation have agreed to support a 46 billion euro US loan to help Ukraine in its war against Russia. In the meantime, funding for the loan would come from interest earned on profits from Russia's frozen central bank assets. Details of the deal are still being finalized as G7 leaders gathered for a summit in Italy, but the funds could reach Kyiv before the end of the year. Now, in the world of sports, Borussia Dortmund has parted company with manager Edin Terzic after he asked the club to terminate his contract with immediate effect. Dortmund reached the Champions League final last season under Terzic, but they were beaten by Real Madrid at Wembley. Terzic began his coaching career with Dortmund's academy between 2010 and 2013 before becoming Slaven Bilic's assistant at Turkish club Besiktas. He followed Bilic to Premier League side West Ham in 2015, but left following the Croatian sacking in November 2017, rejoining Dortmund as Lucien Favre's assistant the following year. Following Favre's dismissal in December 2020, Terzic was named interim boss until the end of that season and led the club to Germany Cup final success with a victory over RB Leipzig. Former Roma coach Paulo Fonseca is to return to Italy as the new boss of AC Milan, the Serie A runners-up announced on Thursday. 51-year-old Fonseca, who has signed a 3-year contract, has been with French club Lille since 2022. He succeeds Stefano Pioli, who was sacked at the end of the 2023-2024 season after 5 seasons in charge. Born in Nampula, Mozambique in 1973, Fonseca began his coaching career in Portugal with stints at Paço de Ferreira, Porto and Braga, before spending 3 years at Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk, where he won 7 trophies and finished with a record of 103 wins in 139 matches. West Ham United have signed highly rated 18-year-old Brazilian winger Luis Guilherme from Palmeiras on a 5-year contract, the Premier League club said on Thursday. They did not reveal the financial details of the deal, but according to the reports, he has been signed for around 25 million euros plus add-ons. He will complete his move on Friday when the transfer window opens. Guilherme becomes the first signing under Spanish manager Julen Lopetegui, who replaced David Moyes in May. He, who represented Brazil at under-17 and under-20 level, helped Palmeiras win the Brazilian Serie A title. A Malaysian footballer who was badly injured in an acid attack last month calls for the perpetrator to be caught as soon as possible and charged in court during the emotional press conference where he spoke to journalists for the first time since his ordeal. Selangor FC winger Faisal Halim suffered fourth-degree burns on his neck, shoulder, hands and chest in the attack at the shopping center outside Kuala Lumpur on May 5th. Still talking sports, Tyson Fury says he's back in the gym preparing for his rematch with undisputed heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk on 21st December in Saudi Arabia. The English fighter suffered the first defeat of his pro career last month, losing a split decision to Ukraine's Usyk. The 35-year-old Fury says he is relishing the opportunity to seek revenge and posted a video of himself training on a heavy bag on his Instagram. The rematch is still 6 months away, but Fury says he is counting down the days until he can get redemption, and former WBC champion Fury lost to Usyk by split decision on the 18th of May, making the Ukrainian the world's first undisputed heavyweight champion in 25 years, an unprecedented feat in boxing's four-belt era. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. You heard that federal government of Nigeria has warned labor of mass sacking over new minimum wage demands. You also heard that South Africa has reported second Mpox death. Finally, we also told you that Rwanda has named new foreign minister, intelligence boss ahead of polls. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.